were the victims' names released that shouldn't have been, that there were names in the files, that these Jane Does, that their names shouldn't have been made public when there were some accusers whose names were redacted? That's question one. And question two was that Ghislaine Maxwell was put in jail for trafficking minors. Rightly so, and you properly said here at this table, you hope she dies in jail. Well, I want to know, will anyone besides her or Epstein, which I congratulate President Trump's previous administration and this Department of Justice for continuing all of that, but that they were indicted, but will anyone else be?
From Texas is recognized.
I thank the chairman.
May I have 20 seconds, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Let's hear the opposition research.
Thank you. That's absolutely right, that they're not running for, he's not running for office again because, well, I don't know why you're not running for office again, but after the filing deadline, you publicly announced you would not run when your chief of staff, Patty Garcia, announced and took your seat.
That's a state matter. That isn't a federal matter. You should investigate crimes.
You
should investigate
time belongs to the gentleman
violations
from
of the law.
Texas. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas.
And a little flexibility on the time. I appreciate the chairman. Madam Attorney General, am I correct that under your leadership, the Department of Justice has prosecuted cases of non-citizen voting? So it's false, as some of my Democratic colleagues have claimed, that it doesn't happen.
Yes.
I ask that today because we're voting on the Save America Act today to enact common sense policies to ensure only American citizens vote in American elections and enact federal voter ID laws. But it's true, for example, that in just this month, a federal grand jury in Newark indicted two men with illegally voting in federal election and making false statements. Mohammed Muzammil and Mohammed Shakil were non-citizens at the time they registered to vote. This happens, it happens regularly, and you're prosecuting those crimes, correct?
Yes.
But does that prosecution of those criminals overturn their previously cast votes?
That's all pending.
But it does not overturn votes that they've cast, right? So passing the Save America Act would help deal with that problem.
Yes, Congressman.
Second question. As Attorney General, you're in charge of the Executive Office of Immigration Review, correct?
Yes, Congressman.
The Biden-Mayorkas regime caused the immigration court case backlog to explode, correct?
Explode.
Does that sound about right that in September of 2020, 4 months before President Biden took office, there was a backlog of 1.5 million cases, but by the time President Biden left office, the backlog reached nearly 4.2 million cases?
It sounds about right, but I don't have the exact numbers.
It would be accurate to say that most individuals who file for asylum have a meritless or fraudulent claim?
Most. I don't have the numbers.
Oh, so does it sound correct that of the asylum cases adjudicated in FY 2023 under the Biden regime, that only 14% resulted in an asylum grant and only 12% in fiscal year 2024? Does that sound correct?
It sounds correct. I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers.
Could you get that information to us to
Yes,
verify that data?
I'll get all that information to you.
Under the Trump administration, immigration judges complete an average of 65,000 cases per month, the highest average completion rate in at least a decade. Does that sound correct?
That sounds correct.
Ms. Bondi, how many new cases under EOIR received in fiscal year 2025 have you all had? And of those, what percentage have been granted asylum? Do you know?
I can try to get you those numbers. I thought I had those.
That'd be great, because my question is whether President Trump's decision to pause asylum in the wake of the shooting of a National Guardsman by an Afghani here in Washington, D.C., in the nation's capital, helped to stop the backlog in your office. Does that sound correct?
Yes, Congressman.
My point being that the leadership of this administration is ending the backlog, reducing the backlog, making sure that we don't have fraudulent asylum claims clogging it, and keeping Americans safe. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman.
So a couple other quick questions on another important topic that has been raised by colleagues on both sides of the aisle with respect to the Epstein case. A few questions. One, Jeffrey Epstein was charged in July 2019 for sex trafficking under the Trump administration in his first term. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman.
And that Ghislaine Maxwell was charged in 2020 also under the Trump administration, correct?
Yes, Congressman.
So it is safe to say that the administration led on that issue and that there was silence in the previous administration. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman. Almost complete silence from everyone who's been trying to still talk about Epstein. They didn't say a word under the Biden administration. Nothing.
And I want to make one other point and then another question that is important. I want to make one observation, that is that we've heard the information today, which is troubling, that Jane Doe's, that victims' information was made public and was unredacted in the files that were released on Friday. So my question is, some of us had argued when we were dealing with the discharge petition in Congress, that when Congress inserted itself into the process, that we needed to be very careful to ensure that we were protecting victims. So a question that is both, I just want to make that clear that some of us were fighting for that here and we didn't get a chance to amend it or change it. So that was concerning. But a question a little more pointed, I have to say, is why, though, were the victims' names released that shouldn't have been? That there were names in the files, that these Jane Does, that their names shouldn't have been made public when there were some accusers whose names were redacted. That's question one. And question two was that Ghislaine Maxwell was put in jail for trafficking minors. Rightly so, and you properly said here at this table, you hope she dies in jail. Well, I want to know, will anyone besides her or Epstein, which I congratulate President Trump's previous administration and this Department of Justice for continuing all of that, but that they were indicted, but will anyone else be indicted and prosecuted under this, given the information that's in front of us? So two questions.
Thank you for letting me answer that. They didn't want to hear my answer on the other side. Yes, given the tight time frame of 30 days, I believe we got everything released within a little over 60 days. I'm talking as fast as I can. My time is up. We did the best we could immediately. If everyone's been coming to view the documents, if someone's name should not have been redacted, we're releasing it. If someone's name was redacted, we said right away, was not redacted and should have been, meaning a victim. We went back and redacted it. We're doing everything we can based on the tight time frame and over 3 million pages that we released that Donald Trump signed for pure transparency. Second, what was your second question?
About whether another individual will be indicted.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that. And they never wanted to hear the answer to that. We have pending investigations in our office.
Time of the gentleman has expired. Unanimous consent request from the gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
In the final minutes of that exchange, the room grew tense. The questions sharpened, and then it happened. Congressman Chip Roy leaned into the microphone and asked what millions of Americans have been wondering since the release of the Epstein files. Will anyone else be indicted? Not speculation, not rumor, not political theater. Indicted. Across the table, Attorney General Pam Bondi responded with the caution of someone standing at the edge of a legal minefield. She spoke of time constraints, of 3 million pages, of transparency ordered and signed, of redactions corrected in real time. And then, when pressed directly or when asked whether anyone beyond Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell would face charges, she said the words that now echo far beyond that hearing room. We have pending investigations in our office. The clock expired. The gavel moved on. But the question lingers. Because this moment was not merely about documents, it was not just about redactions or procedural timelines. It was about whether power in America is truly accountable or selectively so. For years, the Epstein case has symbolized something larger than a single criminal network. It has represented the intersection of influence, wealth, secrecy, and silence. It has raised uncomfortable questions about how institutions handle wrongdoing when powerful names surface in proximity to scandal. And it has tested whether the justice system applies its standards evenly, spy, or cautiously navigates around status and connections. Congressman Roy's line of questioning built toward that crescendo deliberately. He reminded the committee that Epstein was charged in 2019, that Maxwell was charged in 2020, that action had been taken, that prosecutions occurred. But the implication was unmistakable. If crimes required networks, if facilitation required coordination, if misconduct required more than 2 individuals, then accountability must extend further. And that is where the moral weight of the hearing settled. Bondi's answer did not promise indictments. It did not name names. It did not offer dramatic declarations. It offered something both reassuring and unsettling at the same time. Investigations are ongoing. In a republic governed by law, investigations are the mechanism of fairness. They are the shield against reckless accusation. They are the structure that protects due process. But they are also sometimes the space where public trust waits and waits and waits. The American people have been told before that inquiries are underway, that reviews are happening, that documents are being analyzed. What makes this moment different is the scale. 3 million pages, a presidential order emphasizing transparency, a public that has grown skeptical of institutions, yet still hopes those institutions will prove worthy of trust. There was another layer to Roy's questioning, one that should not be overlooked. He raised concern about victim information being improperly released. He emphasized protection. He pointed out the tension between transparency and privacy. In doing so, he acknowledged a painful reality. Accountability must never come at the expense of those already harmed. That tension is the tightrope of justice. Reveal too little, and suspicion deepens. Reveal too much, and innocent individuals, especially victims, can be further exposed. Leadership requires navigating that balance with precision and integrity. Bondi defended the department's efforts within what she described as an accelerated timeline. She noted corrections where necessary. She emphasized transparency as an objective signed into motion. And yet, The defining line of the hearing remains the simplest one. Will anyone else be indicted? It is a question that transcends party. It transcends ideology. It speaks to a fundamental American principle that no individual stands above the law, regardless of wealth, status, or proximity to power. This hearing revealed something important about our system. It showed that oversight still functions, that members of Congress still press uncomfortable questions, that officials still must answer, even if cautiously. It also revealed that public patience is finite. Confidence in institutions is not automatic. It must be earned, reinforced, and defended through action. The Epstein case has become a symbol not because of sensationalism, but because it touches on something deeper: whether justice in America is symmetrical. If the investigations lead to further indictments, it will signal that the system can pursue truth wherever it leads. If they do not, the burden will fall on leaders to explain clearly, transparently, and convincingly why the evidence did not justify further action. In that hearing room, under the bright lights and the ticking clock, the American experiment in accountability was on display. Not finished, not resolved, but in motion. Democracy is not defined by easy answers. It is defined by the willingness to ask difficult questions and the courage to follow those questions wherever they lead. The files have been released. The investigations are pending. The nation is watching. And history will record not just who asked the question, but whether the system answered it fully. If you believe in transparency, if you believe in equal justice, if you believe that accountability must apply without fear or favor, stay informed. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA.